Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
It's not any old episode, it's episode 80.
I can't believe it, Kim. It's at the 80th episode on my 80th birthday year, so this is a very exciting moment.
Yeah, we're saying 80 episodes at 80 years old. Look how far we've come.
We really have, starting out with the podcast, and we had several listeners in 2000 and
early 2021.
Right, early
like
2021, and then we progressed maybe 6 or 7 months later going to TikTok, which I didn't know what that was at the time, and now we're on all the social medias you can possibly think of, and we're recognized all over the world, which is a real hoot, and we're having so much fun.
A hoot.
It's a hoot.
Yeah, it's crazy you didn't know like what a podcast was, what TikTok was, like I feel like you don't even realize probably how much you know now.
Well, I really do know a lot because people ask me questions, which is so funny. Of all people who really was never on any of the tech machines at all. I could barely work my phone.
Mm-hmm. And like, do you feel like you can show them some of the ropes?
Well, some of them, but you have to know everybody's password, so they have to still go on there themselves. But I have shown a lot of people how to get on TikTok, and they're loving it. They really are, and they all like our podcast, which thank heavens you put so much effort into it. And we've learned a lot from our some of the people we've had on our program. They've really been wonderful.
Yeah,
and I think what's the most beneficial is that people, especially grandparents, are now listening to the grandchildren with a little different tone when they hear their children talking to them. They listen to them a little more carefully, perhaps get a different meaning out of it than they would have gotten before we started talking to all these different professionals on our podcast about millennials, about a little older young people and their relationships.
So I want to go back a little bit.
Okay, that would be fun.
Back
We'll
in the time
We'll
machine.
reminisce.
On a few different things. You know, first off, at that point you were married 57 years. Now you've been married 59. Anything different?
Not much. We're still fighting about where we should go for dinner for our anniversary. We had a wonderful anniversary with our family last night and celebrated, and that makes me very happy. I was missing 2 of my grandchildren because one is in Spain and the other one's up at Brown. So they weren't there, but everybody else was, and we toasted them, and we also had very nice food. So it's fun. It's all about family, and we're loving every minute of it, and you don't get older if you keep going with young people. Your mind gets younger thoughts, and you enjoy each day as it goes. I'm having the best time with you, Kim.
Have you felt that at our Fashion Week events over the last week?
First of all, tell people it's been Fashion Week in New York this week.
Yes, and in the past, I've never gone to anything like for any Fashion Week events, but because of our podcast and TikTok now, we were invited to a few of brands that we really love, like Revolve and L'Agence and Love Shack Fancy.
And the funny part is they used to be all like in Bryant Park. They used to have a central area. Now you spend the entire day going to different locations, which in itself is a challenge because the traffic now, thank heavens, has gotten more in New York. So you got to figure out, you got to take an extra 20 minutes to get crosstown, downtown, whatever you're doing uptown. But they're wonderful venues and very, very different. We were something in up at Cooper Union, which was beautiful, at the museum, and we were at one there, and then we went all the way downtown to Hudson Yards, which was I mean, they're spectacular places to have these events.
And you were like loving the people watching, I feel like, at the Revolve event, especially with like all these Gen Z TikTokers.
There were an awful lot of TikTok. There was a lot of picture taking, a lot of phones out with taking pictures. That's 90% of the evening. And the fashions were great. We went into different rooms for different designers that Revolve represents, and it was beautifully done. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Our generation in general takes a lot of pictures and cares a lot about social media, but when you put like 200 influencers in a room, that's like a whole new level.
Constant phones out. I never in my life, and we really had a good time. It was a hoot.
We'll tell them about who.
The highlight of my night was seeing the elevator. Are they the elevator boys?
Yeah, there's these boys. I think they're from Germany.
But they're like in 1920s.
Yeah.
They're in their early 20s, and all they do is they go in and out of elevators all over the world, and they're a hoot, and they're a big attraction. Evidently, they have a tremendous audience on TikTok, and it was just so much fun to see the different craziness of all the different TikTokers that were at the shows, and I must say I enjoyed it. Not maybe so much from a fashion standpoint for me, but I could see where young people could all adapt to all the styles that we saw, and they were quite different and very interesting.
Yeah, and I had gotten my makeup done for that event.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I used Glam Squad, and this woman came over who was very nice, and she was giving me a whole story. She was like, you need to go to a bar alone. And like
she's giving you dating
advice.
Yeah,
she was like, that's how you meet people. And I was like, why wouldn't I just go with my friends? Like, why is it fun to sit by yourself? She was like, sometimes you just want a night to yourself, and that what makes you like the most approachable with guys. But I don't know.
I don't think you need to be approached in a bar anymore. I really think you're over that. But anyway, it's always nice. People are very invested in us.
Yeah.
Which is more than we need to have sometimes. They want to know our outfits, our makeup, our thing. But that's part of the role of doing what we're doing. And most of the time, we're having a good time with it.
Okay, so let's go back to episode 1.
Okay.
And talk about if any of our mindsets have really changed from them. I'm going to play the first 5-second snippet of our first episode. Sliding into the DMs.
I have no idea. Is that a driver's motor vehicle?
No. Direct messages. So on Instagram.
Oh, I don't know what Instagram is.
Oh, it's a social media app.
Okay. Yeah, I think, Kimmy, a lot of the terms I now get. And I think our listeners also get them at this point. Ghosting and all this kind of terms, which we had no idea. Anybody over 60 had no idea what ghosting was except for Halloween. So I think we've learned a lot. Whether it's going to change our lives drastically, I rather doubt it. But it is good to understand your grandchildren.
Exactly.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you brought our attention to it. And I think we are becoming more observant of what our kids are saying.
And in that episode, we also talked about dating apps, how they look, what a profile looks like, the different kinds.
But we're over that. We now have spoken to so many people on dating apps, and some that represent dating apps, that own dating apps, that go on dating apps. I don't think I need to know any more about dating apps. I'm over that. And I think one of the highlights, I think, of my listening to this was from Miss Shemtov, who was a lawyer, actually a divorce lawyer. She was wonderful, and she really laid it out for a lot of the men and the women who are listening to us on what a good relationship is. And even before you get married, you have to have a piece of paper certifying what your needs are. If you have any property, like when I got married, I had no property, and your papi had no property, so we didn't need a prenup. But if somebody now owns something in their own right, maybe then they need a prenup. So those kind of things were interesting, and I thought the doctors we've spoken to on the program have been tremendously informative. So all that has been very, very good.
Yeah, I think my favorite guests were probably some of the guys, to get kind of the male perspective, like having on Nick Vial or Harry Jowsey or Ben Higgins. Like,
Ben was my favorite.
Or Jared Freed. Like, just hearing those guys who are also all very funny. And
very smart.
And very smart. I liked that a lot. And then also talking to some of the younger generation, like in Ellie Zeiler, who, has millions and millions of TikTok followers, and how that's kind of like affected her and her mental health and online bullying and things like that.
And they were all topical issues that are young people are having today, and we must understand it. And the older generation has to understand it, and the younger generation has to understand it and stop a lot of it. But it's unfortunate that the loudest bully always gets away with it until we stop them. So we've learned a lot about that.
Okay, I was gonna see if we still land on the same opinions for Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz, or if you think you've changed your mind in the last 80 episodes.
Okay, I don't think my mind is that much changed, but you can ask me again.
So call or text if it's just to say hi.
I still like the call.
You still like the call.
I still like the call.
I'm going to say I still like the text. It's
Oh.
just to say hi. It's not to talk about something specific or catch up. It's just like, what's up?
Okay.
So I'm going to go with the text.
All right.
Sleep with someone on the first date. You're still saying...
I'm still saying absolutely not.
Right. And on that, when do you think a sleepover should occur? Because I feel like in the
Well,
very
I think
beginning episodes, you were like, when you're
Right.
married. And
Yeah,
I feel like
no,
maybe
I know,
that's
no,
changed.
that's changed.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever say when you're married.
Yeah.
I think for if I was giving advice to somebody, I would say not until you really think there's some kind of emotional link together. I don't think it's just to say thanks for a great evening. I don't even, we used to say that, it was all right to go up to somebody's apartment on the third date. I don't even know if that's necessary. If you feel a connection, fine, go ahead if you really do, or some kind of spark. But I think it would take me still longer than 3 dates to know if I wanted to go to bed with somebody. But that's a very personal thing. I wouldn't preach to anybody about when to do it and when not. But certainly not before the third date, because you don't even know the guy's last name.
Yeah, it's funny. I probably would have thought like a year ago, maybe like, oh yeah, 3-4 dates. But now I'm like date 10 and I'm still like, nah. So I think it really depends. And maybe as you get older, you don't, I don't know, you can like afford to wait.
I don't even know if it's waiting. I think you need to have some kind of desire to spend real physical time with somebody.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen on a third date usually. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't, but I think you need more time to understand and know each
Right.
other.
Because if you're looking for something serious.
If you're looking for a relationship.
Right.
If you're just looking for a one-night stand and you have nothing to do and you feel like having sex, that's another story. I would be careful, but I know that happens. But if you're really looking for a relationship, I don't think you can understand somebody after 3 dates. I think it takes a while.
Okay, dating apps or setups, has your mind changed in the
No,
last
I'm still
80
going with
episodes?
the setup. Still going with the in-person setup.
I would probably, I was so heavy on dating apps, and then I feel like the last month or two it's changed.
So
I'm
you're-
still gonna go with dating apps. I
All
think.
right,
Yeah.
okay, but maybe you're getting a little weak on
Yeah,
that.
maybe. Move in together before getting engaged or after?
Absolutely.
Before.
Before.
Did you think that before? I can't remember.
I would have said waiting for engagement, but you see,
Yeah.
you young people drag the whole process out so long that you could be old and gray.
Yeah.
I still believe after 6 months, if you move in with somebody, after 2-3 months, if you see this isn't really where you want to go, I would be out of there. 9 months is long enough to know somebody and to know if this is going to be, if you want to get married or if you want to have a family.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, I think it's different if you're in college, or different if you're, and then for sure when you graduate college, it's a different mindset. If you want to live with somebody for 6 months, fine, and then you'll go on to the next one. But I wouldn't do that. I mean, to me, moving in is a first commitment along the path of the secondly being engaged, and then third getting married.
Okay, so you're still traditional.
Still traditional.
And I say definitely move in before engagement. Who should pay for the date, or should you split?
I'm still firm on that. I still think the guy is in control, and I still think he should pay. I think the difference is in nowadays, when both people are probably working and making a living, that you could pick up a gift or say, I'm going to get him a special bottle of wine or a box of candy or
Right.
something that he likes, and reciprocate that way, or make dinner at home. We've discussed this many times.
Is there anything you can think of that you've like learned in the last 80 episodes that like I mean, I guess we went over the terms and stuff, but like your actual opinions about anything?
Well, sort of what I've heard from the young people, not from the professionals that have been on, but the people who are single and looking for relationships. I find there's still people of this generation don't seem to be relaxed and looking forward to closing a deal. They are very worried that something next week will get better, and that maybe they shouldn't go into this relationship because maybe there's a better person around the corner. I never thought that way, and I don't know most of my contemporaries didn't either. We felt that after a period of time, this was it, and we try it, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. But now there's such an assortment of ways to meet people that I find that people are not as eager to make the relationship really matter. And they're still looking. They're looking for Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect.
Yeah.
Miss Perfect.
I feel like I learned the perfect text to send when you don't like somebody. I feel like I have a good template. Also feel like I've learned good go-to date night outfits because we've picked out so many.
Well, that's
and
true.
I mean, I still freak out every time and I'm like, should I wear this or that or whatever? But more of a better idea of like what you wear on a date, depending on where you're going, stuff like that.
I think that's just a sign of maturity. And also your closets are getting so stuffed you can't put any more new choices in there.
Maybe. I also think for people who follow us and listen, I might start doing like post some photos or like a highlight reel on our Instagram or TikTok of some outfits that you can kind of be inspired by or copy when you're trying to think of an outfit
That's
to
a
wear
good
on a
idea for
date
dating,
that are
right.
like Grandma Gail approved.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
Mhm.
I approve of a lot of them. But in my mind, simple is always better.
Yeah.
A pair of good jeans, a jacket, leather jacket, a shirt, sweater, always the perfect date night.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like I learned personally just like to not let something go on too long. Like if either in a relationship that like you've only gone on 2 or 3 dates with, but you know that it's not going anywhere, don't go on 10 dates. And I know a lot of people don't do that. That was just like a problem I was having. But now I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut them off sooner.
Well, I don't agree with that philosophy, but you know what? Everybody has a different pattern in dating, because I believe that sometimes over a series of date relationships develop. So you know what? It all depends on your psyche and how you approach the world. And you know what? It's not one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly. That was just a personal one,
Right.
I guess. Let's talk about our favorite TikToks in the last, I don't know.
Well,
6
the favorite
months.
one that the crowd loved was the one that we were joking around in Sag Harbor at the boat, where I went and yelled up to the captain, "I have a single granddaughter."
Yeah, that was
went
quite
viral.
embarrassing. But yeah, that got like 5 million plus
Over,
views
I
on
think,
TikTok.
yeah.
I think on Instagram, was it like 20 million?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was it was the funniest thing. It was the spur of the moment. We were taking a walk on the harbor, and I said, "Oh, let's just do something." And we came up with this, and people loved it.
Isn't it funny that something that takes 1 second to
Right.
film organically goes viral, and then something
that you work on so hard?
It's just the name of the game.
Exactly.
Also, you know, anytime that I like show you outfits, like that one that was like I showed you an ugly outfit.
They love that.
They
They
love
love ugly outfits.
But they also love when you help me pick like cute outfits out, you know?
Right. But I think we've actually done pretty well with our cooking episodes.
Yes.
Our Rice Krispie thing did very. The Rice Krispie treats is the old standard of the 50s. It's coming back in 2022. So I think those are fun, and we've had fun doing it because we're learning the potato pancake recipe that you thought would be so difficult was easy.
That's like a newer thing.
Right.
Another one we've been doing more recently is like some of your rules and your that are supposed to be funny. So I think people are liking those, and also your outfit of the day.
All right, and believe me, everybody who's listening who's looked at these Instagrams with the rules, don't take it seriously. There are no rules. Grandma has no rules. We're having fun with it.
Also, you know, anytime you're interpreting text messages or I'm teaching you different modern terms.
Well, that's still very interesting. I still like that, Kim. That was a good segment when we did those.
Yeah. Also, when Selena Gomez used our sound, when you say date someone who is normal, and I said not my type, and then Selena Gomez reposted that. That was a highlight for sure.
We know you made it then.
Yeah. And then people liked when we said he's a 10, but he, you know, does this.
He's a doctor.
Right. Or does this the wrong way or whatever. Then we had to rate them.
Well, I'm going to tell you something very cute that happened to me the other day. I was in an office, in a doctor's office, and the woman, the receptionist at the desk said, "I love your TikToks." And she said,
Really?
Yeah. She said, "I have to tell you something. I've been married twice to a lawyer a stockbroker, and now I'm dating a doctor, and he's the best. So
Wait,
I
was this
started
recent?
just yesterday.
Okay, yeah, because we just did that video of when you were telling my friends to date doctors or lawyers.
Right, she had seen
By
it.
the way, our comments are always so positive,
Right.
and that one did not get as much positivity.
Oh.
Don't know what that was about.
All right.
People were like, how about someone who's nice? And I'm like, okay, obviously we're
This
just
is a joke.
It's a
This
joke.
is a joke.
Like,
These are all jokes. We're not pushing the American Medical Association, nor the law firms,
Yeah.
nor the stock exchange. We're just making something that's comical out
Yeah.
of a situation.
totally. Also the one where we went through your fridge and through my fridge, that got like 1 million views also for some reason. So maybe we'll have to do some more stuff in the
People
fridge.
are desperate to see what's in everybody's refrigerator.
I guess so. So yeah, we're having lots of fun on TikTok. Hopefully we're going to come up with even more stuff in the next 80 episodes. And so for our like main topic, I wanted to discuss a little bit of just grandparent-grandchild relationships and how to kind of like stay close and feed those relationships, because I think we've definitely learned that over the last 80 episodes as well. So I'm thinking, were you going to say something?
No, I'm
Oh.
listening to you. That's part of the relationship.
Yeah, well, listen is always our number one.
Mhm.
I think like younger generations find older generations to like sometimes not be as tolerant or not, be understand what's going on today. And like I don't think grandparents need to just completely throw out everything that they've ever lived by or believe, but I think the willingness to like listen to the young generation can go a long way.
Well, I think that's true, and I think that goes the flip side.
Yeah.
That the younger generation has to listen a little bit to the older generation who's gone through the same experiences. Really, very few experiences are different
Yeah.
from generation to generation. It could be a viewpoint that changes, but basically everybody always has the same problems. So I think that keeping an open mind and listening to each other, whether it be even grandparents, whether it be teachers or bosses or whatever, people have to listen to one another, and that's been a constant subject that we have been going over. And I think also, if I might say, I think grandparents, because it's very hard today, that we don't all live in the same towns, we don't
Yeah.
all live near each other.
Yeah.
I think the older grandparent has to reach out to the younger generation. We know that they probably speak to their children, but they have to then contact whatever means, whether it be on their tablets or on their phones or a letter, or if there's such a thing as a letter writing anymore, but to let the younger generation know they're thinking of them, and if they have an issue, please let me know. Maybe we can talk it through.
Yeah,
I think
and I'm glad you said that, because vice versa too. Like I was gonna give the advice to the younger generation of like, when you see your grandparents next, like just quickly teach them how to FaceTime or to like to send a text easily.
very good. Kim.
And because sometimes they might not just want to ask how, or it just might be more frustrating. So just like sit down with them and show them, and then try to call them at least every other week. I mean, even you, sometimes you don't know how to initiate the FaceTime, but like you pick it up if I do it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Listen, we don't understand. It wasn't part of our development. So I know even now when I want to do a special thing on my smart TV and I can't figure it out, I have to call my grandchildren or my son to come over and do it for me. And you know what? I've gotten over the embarrassment. I can't do it, so I need somebody to help me.
is it embarrassing?
Well,
Like,
I
were you
think a
ever
lot of
embarrassed?
people- I wasn't embarrassing is the wrong word. I
Okay.
think you feel awkward in asking for help on such a thing where everybody takes for granted that they know
yeah.
how to do it. But a lot of people don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
And we don't mind being told how to do it.
So I have some like more tangible things, whether you live close to them or far from them, and tell me what you think about them. So like, if you do live far from your grandparents or you don't see them that often, you can also set them up on Instagram so they can follow you. Like they don't have to post stuff if they don't want to, but they could like just see what you're doing when you post a picture with your friends and stuff.
That's a great idea, Kim.
And from the grandchild's perspective, like if you don't want them to see certain things, you can always like hide them from your stories or restrict them from certain things also. If it's like you don't want to see them going out taking shots with your friends, but you'd like to see them posting like a nice picture or something. Another thing is you could listen to our podcast together and like send each other
Comments.
different episodes and be like, did you listen to this one? And kind of, I mean, it's a personal plug, but I'm trying to think of something, you know.
Well, it's generational.
Yeah.
So it's generational issues that we discuss, and we'd love other generational families to talk about it as well. We're not developing the wheel here.
Yeah.
It's basic problems that all people have.
Yeah, and it might inspire you to like ask advice or offer advice about like those off-limit topics that you might not normally think is worth talking about, but like that we bring up on our podcast. And then I'm thinking, if you do live close to the person, like do activities you both like to do together. Like for us, it's shopping a lot of the time, or golf, or like things like that.
Now it's become cooking.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. We've only done that like for videos twice, but
we like eating.
Yeah, that's true. If you like eating, you could do like certain restaurants together. Cook something together for sure is one of those things.
The call, Kim, is the most important thing. You can be close, you can be far away. Somebody wants to just hear your voice. That's all.
Yep, agreed. Or if you're like Grandma Gail, just pop in unannounced and say hi. So I thought we could end out the episode by answering lots of questions that you've all written in. Someone asked what I did before Excuse My Grandma. And I used to work in television news as a producer and an on-air reporter. And then Excuse My Grandma became my full-time job a little less than a year ago, probably. So, yeah. So someone asked, if you failed miserably at dating in your 20s, 30s, 40s, is there still hope, or do you just give up?
Never give up. And you should never give up. There's always a silver lining. There's always somebody waiting on the wings. But you got to put yourself out there.
Grandma's exercise routine.
Walking. I walk. That's why I love to live in the city. I walk all the time. And sometimes I'll play a little golf, but mostly walking.
Grandma, how do you like being Instagram famous?
It's so funny. I meet people in the supermarket. I meet people. This morning, somebody stopped me on the street and says, I watch you all the time. It's always very, very heartwarming for me because I never in my life envisioned this. And I'm not that kind of person. And I'm having
You would never want fame ever, I feel like.
I always like to be under the radar, actually. That was my goal in life. But you know what? I'm having a lot of fun.
I'm like the opposite. I'm like, please put me in the spotlight.
I know you
but
like
then no,
that.
I really am the opposite though, because then when it comes to it, then I get shy.
Then you get shy.
I
Whereas
know.
when it comes to mine,
Yeah, you love it.
I love it.
I know. It's so funny like that way. How does Grandma stay so youthful? I'm barely 20 and my back and my knees hurt. Girl, I agree. Or guy, I don't know who wrote this in. I'm the same. Like I have such bad, that's why I left my job originally. I have really bad neck issues. So
Well, because I think I have a personal feeling on this. I think a lot of the ailments that young people have are due to the constant looking at the phones and looking at our iPads. And I think a lot of the neck issues, back issues, hip issues are all because we're sedentary and we're at the tablets. And there's nothing, that's life today. You're going to have to get up, sit down, move around a little bit and work it through.
What kind of music, books, movies did you like when you were younger and or now?
Well, when I was younger and even now, I love to listen to music of the 50s and 60s. I still love it. I love also all the show tunes. I'm a big lover of listening to music from shows. I listen to certain channels on the radio when I'm driving, and I listen to that all the time. Books, I love anything that's to do with history. I'm a history buff. I was a history major at school, and very much like to know how different people view different events in our lives, and how it can help us perhaps not to repeat the mistakes of yesterday.
Yeah. And I love 50s and 60s music too. Maybe we'll make a playlist together at some point.
That would be fun, Kim.
Does Grandma think Kim is more like her mom or dad?
I think Kim is more like her mom, but looks like her dad.
Okay. Other than donating clothes, do you have any charitable interests that you work for?
Well, we've worked
Definitely.
both of us have worked for many Jewish-based organizations, universities where we attended, local food shelters and drives that we've done in our different areas where we live. Yes, we have multiple interests in giving to others, and hope that everybody will do the same. We all need to chip in these times.
Gail, over the past 80 years, which era had the best style and which had the worst style?
Well, I can tell you right now which had the worst style was the 80s. There was nothing uglier than the clothes in the 80s. It was over the top. It was garish. It was ugly. It was awful.
Okay, nothing major.
The style for me that was sort of that I liked the best, I guess, was the late 50s. Was the glamour style of the movie stars of Grace Kelly and Sophia Loren and Audrey Hepburn. I think that was iconic. Would it work today in today's world? No.
Yeah, it is hard to. I actually spent. I was like, I couldn't sleep the other night, and I was googling like 50s dresses for like an hour just to think like, oh, it'd be fun to kind of have something of that vibe. Nowhere. Like, you can't get anything vintage looking like that.
Well, I think everybody bought up the 50s clothes a couple of years ago. They're probably worth a fortune now.
Yeah, maybe. But even just like inspired, like a fuller skirt or like a smaller waistline, like it's hard to find.
Because nobody really wants to dress that way. It was actually very structured. And your life today is not structured. It's all about movement, and you would never have people wanting to wear little brocade short little jackets with rhinestone buttons today.
Right.
There would be no reason for it. Our lives are different. There was clearly a difference between daytime looks in the 50s and the 60s, and even the early 70s, and then what you'd wear at night. Now you put a pair of jeans on or a pair of sweatpants, it would go on day and night. Wouldn't matter.
Makes sense.
So, and I think that goes across the ages, by the way. I think everyone's gotten much more casual.
What do you consider as basic must-have jewelry for women in their 60s and up?
Well, we've discussed this before. I think in the year 2022, as much as I love jewelry and possess a lot of it, I would say very simple. A watch of whatever you like, a pair of earrings to go out day or night, maybe a hoop earring. I wear a small little earring, and I wear a wedding band. Other than that, unnecessary, unless you're going to a party. But I think jewelry is very simple now. Simple and chic is the word.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Advice for moms who are sad when their kids have gone away to college.
Get over it. Get over it and get a life. You have to develop. If many of you work, so then you work more. If you're those who don't work, you socialize with your friends a little more. You join a book club. You learn how to play bridge. You learn how to play backgammon. You go to an art museum, which I could spend days on end going from museum to museum in New York or anywhere in the world and have a perfectly wonderful time. So I think you develop things that perhaps you hadn't really thought about for 20 years because you were raising your family. And many people, that's not true. That was of my generation that women stayed at home largely and didn't have careers. Now I think everybody has a career, and you just do a little more of your networking, I think, when the kids leave the house. And start enjoying yourself. That's the first rule. Don't let yourself go to a gym, go to a spa for the day. Put a little love back into yourself.
When is Grandpa going to be featured?
I don't think yet. I don't think he's ready for his debut yet. So he sort of goes in and out of videos. Sometimes we find him wandering into the video.
And I cut it out. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I feel like it has to be a big moment. Like, I don't know if it's episode 100 or what.
I don't know what the moments could it be.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think he's ready for his cameo.
I think it might be at 500,000 followers.
All right. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, we have a bunch more, but let's just do one. What life lessons have you taught Kim that you hope she takes on with her through life?
Okay, my advice to my granddaughter is to be the super adult that she has become. Always be true to herself, true to her own values. And when she finally does decide who her Prince Charming is, he will add to her life the way my family has added to me, and will create something beautiful on their own that will be their testament of their love.
Okay, nice. Last time we talked about Grandma, you're going on a trip and
Oh,
you're trying to
yes,
pack
Kim.
in a wheelie. And I asked you all listening and our followers to write in some ideas of how she can be more of an efficient packer. And we got so many responses.
So I want to see hear some of the responses, because I was folding and rolling and doing all. I still don't think I can do it, by the way. But I'm going to keep trying. Every day I do like a practice. This trip is a month away, and I've now unpacked. The clothes are wearing out just from being rolled.
Okay.
Well, okay.
A lot of people, and
Yes.
by a lot, I mean like 100 people said
Okay.
packing cubes.
What is a cube? This is what I don't have a cube. What is that?
Okay, I'm going to Google it because I also don't know.
Well, I think maybe I have to buy it or order it or whatever I
Okay,
have
so
to
it's
do
like
with them.
it's like these things. It's like nylon and mesh.
Right. Oh, so they're like, so that, right. But that's very good if you're only going for like a weekend. Because then what happens if you have a lot of nightgowns and a lot of sweaters? I'm having a big problem with the sweater situation.
Okay, so I'll go through what everyone else
Okay,
said
let's
then.
see.
Try everything on before you pack it.
Okay, that I've done.
Make outfits interchangeable.
Right.
Okay.
I'm taking only 2 colors.
Black pants go with everything.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Roll your clothes.
Right. I did the rolling.
You did
I
the rolling? Okay.
bit.
A lot of people said roll. A lot of people said staple pieces that you can like mix
Right,
and match. Okay. Compression bags.
Well, that's what you use when you went to camp. In other words,
Oh, yeah,
sucks
camp.
out the air. But
Right.
then what do you do on the other end when you have to go home? You don't have the attachment to
Oh.
take the air out. So I thought about that. If I have to take the machine with me, it's going to be a disaster. I know that's the right idea.
Yeah, and this was kind of a good tip. Like when you're mixing and matching your basics, you can like bring different scarves that are small to kind of like change the vibe of the
Right.
outfit.
Right. That's a good idea.
Wear the bulky items on the plane.
I told you I'm wearing a sweater, a coat, a jacket.
Okay. You know the company Away? It's like where my pink suitcase is from.
Yes.
So they make like a bigger carry-on that still fits in the top.
Oh, what's the size of that?
I don't know. We got to look
We
it
have to
up.
look that up, because I went online and I bought one that they said is the largest one for,
Oh, okay.
but it's a soft one. It's not it's not a hard one
Oh.
that goes in the
Well,
overhead.
maybe the hard one you should get.
But you see, the problem I have is people take 2 bags. They take your wheelie and then they put something over it. Then you're carrying a pocketbook.
Right.
Now I'm 80 years old. I'm walking around with a heavy wheelie, a heavy thing that always falls off of the wheelie, and then you're carrying your bag.
Yeah.
It's too many things.
Okay, wait.
I
Also,
I
with
can't
like,
do it.
I don't know if you bring a
I
lot
might
of.
stay home.
I know. Okay, well, that's the best we can kind of do. Right?
Okay.
They also said there's a lot of travel influencers that you can follow, and they have great
I
ideas.
think that's what
So we should look
next
that up.
couple of weeks we're going to look that up.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody,
Thanks,
for trying to
everyone.
help.
And thanks for listening for 80 episodes. And please share with your family and your friends. We love you all. Again, you know how to follow us. Excuse My Grandma on TikTok and Instagram. Where you can listen to the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening right now. And we will see you next week.
Thank